Do we have other commissioners in Indio chambers, or is it just Gloria and I so far?
Just me. This is Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
Vice Chair Rodriguez Ceja will be absent, as well as Commissioner Valdez.
Okay.
Nico, we could proceed whenever you're ready.
Okay, it is 6:02 p.m., May 11th, 2022, and we will call to order this Planning Commission meeting. Can we get a roll call vote, roll call attendance, please?
Commissioner Lopez?
Present.
Commissioner Franz?
Present.
Chairperson Isiano?
Present.
And Commissioner Valdez and Vice Chair Rodriguez Ceja are both absent.
Okay, Commissioner Lopez, would you be so glad as to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance?
Of course.
Could you hear her? Nico,
Yeah,
'cause
thank
I couldn't
you.
hear.
I couldn't hear. I just want to make sure that we have audio there from the chambers.
We do. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, yes, maybe just directly when speaking into the mic, we couldn't hear Commissioner Lopez.
Oh,
But
okay. I
We were
apologize.
following along with the pledge. Thank you, Jackie. Do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda tonight?
There were none.
Being that there were none, we'll go ahead and move on to our first public hearing item.
And just to, pardon the interruption, Chair, just to confirm, there's also no one submitting in attendance at the moment, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and go with the first public hearing item. We'll open the public hearing for 4.1 design review for proposed 65,000 square foot warehouse located on southwest corner of Avenue 45 and Gulf Center Parkway. Do we have staff report?
Yes. Just waiting for the presentation to come onto our screen today. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Alyssa Suarez, Acting Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. Item 4.1 is a design review application for the applicant Boulders West LLC for a proposed industrial warehouse. This project is located on the southwest corner of Gulf Center Parkway and Avenue 45. In summary, it's a proposed 65,000 square foot industrial warehouse. It is speculative, meaning that there is no tenant identified at this time. The parcel has a land use designation of Workplace and Employment District under the General Plan 2040 and a industrial park zoning district under the current zoning ordinance. Warehouse is principally permitted in the industrial park zone and an allowed use under the WEP zone land use designation. So here is an image of the proposed site plan. So to give you an idea, the project is a one-story, 59,000 square foot warehouse, which also includes a 6,000 square foot mezzanine. The project has a front setback of 72 feet from Gulf Center Parkway and 60 foot front setback off of Avenue 45. This is consistent with the 20-foot required setback in the industrial park zone. The project will also include a rear setback of 33 feet and a side setback of 39 feet. This is also consistent with the industrial park zone standards of 0 rear and 0 side setbacks if the project is not abutting a residential development. The applicant is proposing 156 parking spaces, including ADA handicap accessible spaces. There is also a total of 7 loading spaces being proposed, including 3 high loading docks and 4 ground level loading docks. The project site would have access off of 2 proposed driveways. One is located off of Gulf Center Parkway, and that would be a shared driveway. And the other is actually an existing driveway off of Avenue 45. The image before you is a proposed floor plan showing the open space of the warehouse. There will be a 8,000 square foot office space designated in this floor plan. And as you can see, there is also a mezzanine level floor plan that shows access via an elevator and a staircase. The image before you is the proposed architectural elevations of the structure. The building will have a modern facade and feature architectural overhangs along the east side of the building where the mezzanine will be located, and that is shown in the white there. The building itself will range in color with gray hues and contain blue tinted glass windows. There is a small color board layout there for you to visualize. The tallest point of this structure will be 30 feet in height, which is under the 30-foot height maximum limit in the industrial park zone. So here are some more renderings to show you what the conceptual idea of this architecture layout will look like. Additionally, the applicant is proposing to landscape primarily along the frontage of Avenue 45 and Gulf Center Parkway. There would also be landscaping distributed throughout the parking lot and along the front and sides of the building. There is also a proposed retention basin on the northeast portion of the parcel that will be landscaped and designed with desert-friendly landscaping. So this is another image of the proposed warehouse to give you an idea looking southwest from Gulf Center and Avenue 45. So I'd like to emphasize some of the conditions of approval that are being proposed today. The project will be required to comply with condition A13, which requires the applicant to submit an exterior lighting plan for approval from the planning division, as well as condition A14, which requires the applicant to submit a final landscaping plan for approval from the planning division, engineering division, as well as the Indio Water Authority. Condition B7 requires that the applicant comply with the on-site stormwater retention basin and systems, and that those are approved by the city engineer. Condition C4 through 6 requires full off-site improvements, including sidewalks, street lights, and storm drain systems along Avenue 45 and Gulf Center Parkway. Additionally, The project will require condition C7, which is a lot merger to authorize development across the 3 separate parcels that are included here today. And that would result in one combined parcel to facilitate development. Staff has found that the project is consistent with CEQA guidelines sections 15332, also known as Class 32, infill development projects, and is categorically exempt. Section A of Class 32 requires that the project is consistent with applicable general plan and zoning designations. This project is principally permitted in the industrial park zone and is consistent with the development standards of this zone as fully described in my presentation. Additionally, the project has been found to be consistent with the workplace and employment district designation, since this designation does support industrial uses and office spaces. The city has also certified and adopted the EIR for the 2040 general plan. And the uses under the workplace and employment district were fully contemplated and assessed under the EIR. Therefore, it can be found that the project is consistent with the environmental analysis that was conducted under the General Plan 2040 EIR, and further, it meets the requirements of the Class 32 exemption. Section B of Class 32 requires that the proposed project occur within city limits on a project site of no more than 5 acres that is substantially surrounded by urban uses. This project site is located across 3 separate parcels, which will be merged, totaling a total of 3.84 acres, which is consistent with the maximum 5-acre requirement. The project site is also surrounded by properties developed within existing suburban land uses, including public street right-of-ways, existing commercial and industrial buildings bound to the project site to the north, south, and the west. These are all uses associated with the urbanized setting described by the CEQA qualified urban uses. Section C of Class 32 requires that the project has no value or habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species. This site is currently vacant, and based on the materials presented by the applicant, it was previously graded in 2003 through 2004. Staff has visited the site and identified native shrubbery, including creosote bush, and non-native species, including invasive species such as tamarisk. This is not classified as rare, endangered, or threatened species. Additionally, the site was classified as urban and rural developed land under the General Plan EIR and under the vegetation and land cover mapping efforts as shown here. Additionally, it is also not identified in the conservation areas that were identified under the Coachella Valley Multiple Species Habitat Conservation Plan that was also assessed in the General Plan EIR. Therefore, staff is confident that the project site does not contain any habitat for sensitive or threatened species. Section D of Class 32 requires that a project would not result in any significant effects relating to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality. So with respect to traffic, the city has adopted the County of Riverside's Transportation Analysis Guidelines for Vehicle Miles Traveled, or VMT. Pursuant to these guidelines, warehouse buildings less than 208,000 square feet are presumed to cause a less than significant impact, and they can be screened out from further environmental analysis. The proposed warehouse before you is 65,000 square feet in size. Therefore, it can be determined that this project will have a less than significant impact with respect to traffic and vehicle miles traveled. With respect to noise, the project site is projected to have a 50 to 65 exterior noise level, according to the city's General Plan 2040 designation, or excuse me, the 2040 EIR. That is within the acceptable noise range for industrial uses. With respect to air quality, this project is located within the South Coast Air Basin, which is under the jurisdiction of the South Coast Air Quality Management District. In order to comply with the standards of that district, all the construction sites in the city of Indio are required to have a dust control plan called a fugitive dust control plan with regards to PM10. This project is conditioned to comply with those requirements. Additionally, under the city's adopted VMT thresholds, a warehouse use of 208,000 square feet is equivalent to 2,995 megatons of carbon dioxide emissions. This is also under the South Coast Air Quality Management District threshold of 3,000 megatons of carbon dioxide emissions per year. The project is substantially smaller than the 208,000 square foot threshold, which can be presumed to cause a less than significant impact with respect to air quality and greenhouse gases. With respect to water quality, this project is within the Valley Sanitary District service boundary, who is responsible for wastewater collection and treatment services. The project is conditioned to comply with all local, state, and federal regulations and guidelines related to water quality. In addition, the applicant has submitted a preliminary water quality management plan for review, and that has been reviewed by the engineering division and will be a final WQMP will be required with the engineering division as well. So as conditioned, the project will be designed to meet the city's water quality standards, additionally for retaining stormwater on site. And as conditioned, the project will not have an impact on water quality. Section E of Class 32 of the CEQA guidelines require that the project can be adequately served by all required utilities and public services. This site has domestic water availability both on Golf Center and Avenue 45 frontages. The site also has sanitary sewer available on those frontages, as well as in an existing sanitary sewer easement located on the west side of the property. There is also access to electrical power from the Imperial Irrigation District along both Golf Center, Parkway, and Avenue 45 frontages. This site has also been designed to store all stormwater features and stormwater runoff within the site, so there's no need for access to a public storm drainage. This site has access to communication facilities as well and can be adequately served by police and fire services, and there have been conditions of approval from the fire department on this project. Therefore, it can be found that this site can be served by all of the required utilities and public services. Additionally, the project is consistent with section 15300.2, which is the exceptions to the exemptions, as none of the exceptions apply to this project, and those relate to the location, cumulative impacts, significant impacts, scenic highways, hazardous waste sites, and historical resources. Again, none of the exceptions to the exemptions apply here. Therefore, it can be found that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA, consistent with Class 32 infill development projects. The project is also consistent with the industrial park zone development standards under the current zoning code. And it's also consistent with the workplace and employment district designation under the general plan 2040. And with that, staff is asking that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2024, approving design review for the architecture, site plan, parking, circulation, and preliminary landscaping for the Boulders West LLC proposed warehouse. Thank you. I'm available for questions.
I have a quick question of staff. On the conditions you listed kind of earlier on in the presentation, are those items such as the lighting, plan and landscape, those are just to be approved by staff? That's not something being brought back in front of the Planning Commission?
That is correct. That will be required as a condition of approval separately. That will come to staff and the building division and engineering division for approval.
Commissioners, any other questions for staff?
I do. So it looks like this is a very modern looking building and I do like the way it looks, but where are the air conditioners, the back house? I mean, where, can you show me on one of the plans how those are going to be screened or where they're going to be placed? And we also have an issue with, of course, trash containers in the city that they need to be, you know, enclosed and locked and all of that kind of stuff. And I couldn't find those on the drawings.
Yes, so on the site plan here, I can show there is a location for the trash enclosures, and then there are conditions of approval that require the applicant to comply with the city's solid waste and recycling standards for screening those structures. So I'm not sure if you can see it very well here, but near the high and low loading docks on the northern portion of the site, well, it would be considered the western portion of the building. There are three loading docks there with semi trucks shown, and the trash would be located directly to the south of that location.
I see it now, the tiny little boxes. Okay.
Yes, it's very hard to see.
Okay, and those will be screened and locked and top and front and everything. So to maintain, you know, the cleanliness of the area.
Yes, correct. And they are required to comply with that as a condition of approval.
Okay, thank you for that. And then can you explain to me where they're putting their air conditioners and all of those things and how are they going to be screened? Because it looks like this is a pretty flat roof.
Yes, and the applicant is here to answer that. I don't believe that we have the architectural elevation showing the location of those structures. However, again, the code does require that those be screened from public right-of-way, at least with either desert-friendly landscaping or through the architectural design. And I do not have figures that would show the location of those structures.
Okay, then I'll hold that question for the applicant because that's very important. Landscape never works very well for very long. So, okay, the other questions I'll just say for the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions for staff, then we will open the public comment portion and hear from the applicant.
Thank you. Sorry. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Johnson. I am the president of Johnson Commercial Real Estate. I have lived here in the Coachella Valley for 40 years. My wife and I married 37, and our 3 children were all born and raised here. Do you need my address? Oh, don't need my address. All right. First of all, thank you for this opportunity to come and speak to you all this evening. Very exciting project, and we're looking forward to this. I'd like to thank the design team, Mr. Benjamin Egan and Mr. Bill Sharon. They're here, and they can answer the questions regarding AC screening and details of that. Alyssa, thank you very much for your staff report. Extremely thorough, as we saw. I've been building buildings in Indio for over 20 years. This project is the last building in what we call the Boulders West Parkway, which is a 30-acre subdivision that I did with Mr. Mark Benedetti. We've got 7 buildings in there. We did that commercial subdivision back in 2005. I've also built the Spectrum at Shadow Hills with a gentleman by the name of Mr. Guy Evans. That's an 18-acre subdivision we did in 2006, and that has 6 buildings. I also built the Ferguson, 42,000 square foot building on 6 acres in Indio. In addition to that, I built the Chuckwalla Valley Raceway out in Desert Center, the Ross Aviation Facility, the Jet Center and Thermal, and then the Coachella International Horse Park down in Thermal. So I've been here in the Valley for a long time, doing a lot of fun stuff. I agree with the staff conditions and staff report and accept the conditions of approval. I did see the objection letter that came in. I don't know the people where they came from or what they do, but I did find them on phonyuniontreehuggers.com, and I don't think we need to deal with that. Tonight, I would ask for your adoption of the resolution approving the design review. I build big buildings for big employers here. As a matter of fact, Mr. Benedetti and I still own the facility immediately adjacent to this. Builders First Source, they currently employ 600 people in Indio. 40 of those are office staff and the rest work in the fields, and they all have very good benefits, good paying jobs. The Builders First Source facility is a very environmentally safe. 100% of the waste is recycled. There is no dust discharge. Right now, they're currently generating about 10 homes per day, and they have an annual revenue of $110 to $120 million. So I build big buildings in Indio for big employers, and I ask for your approval tonight. Myself and my design team are here to answer any questions you have.
Commissioner Franz?
Yes, thank you. So for the builder, a couple of questions. All the blue that is visible on the building is glass. Is that correct? There's no paint, that the blue portion is glass.
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure of that. Two, there is two colors that you see that run, across the building, more like a white and a light gray or something like that. Are those paint or different block?
I think those are extrusions. They're what?
It's painted on it.
Oh, it's painted. It's painted on there.
Paint. Okay, so it's just paint. All right. Okay. I didn't see anything about solar. Are you guys going to build to either have solar or be prepared to add solar at any given time? I mean, with the environment and everything, that's something we're all always worried about.
Yes, the building will be solar ready.
Solar ready. Okay. Okay. Let's see. How many employees do you think this warehouse is going to have, especially since you said there are 600 at your other building?
Well, if you take a look, the facility next door is 72,000 square feet, and this is 65,000 square feet. If we have the same type of tenant that has people out in the field, I would expect it to be something similar. But I anticipate this being more of a manufacturing type user. I don't have the big outside yard space on this facility that we do next door. So, I would assume somewhere between 50 and 150 employees.
Okay. All right. And I think I would like to see and hear how all of the utilities, the air conditioners are going to be placed and screened since they're not visible in the design.
The air conditioning units will all be on the roof, and they will be screened by a parapet wall.
Okay. And is the parapet wall going to go all the way around the building or be completed in a way that you can't, like, it doesn't look odd? Like sometimes you do a parapet wall, you do just the screening of the units and then it just looks kind of weird. And since we can't see it on these plans, I'm curious where you plan to place it and how far those parapet walls are going to run, because it's going to change the look of the building if you're going to add something to the roof.
I have the architect here, Mr. Bill Sharon, and I think he could probably address that comment in detail.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is William Sharon, the architect for the project, with offices in San Diego and Palm Desert. Yes, what you see on the elevations is all you will ever see, and that will screen all the air conditioning or swamp cool units. The rooftop is designed on the main portion of the building to be 4 feet or I should say the surrounding wall is 4 to 6 feet higher as the roof slopes around the warehouse portion, and then 6 to 8 feet tall that would be over the office portion of the mezzanine. So that there's like a well built into the entire roof. So no matter where you put an air conditioning unit, it should be screened.
Okay, so the top of the building is going to stay what we see.
Correct.
All the equipment is going to be put below that roof line. You're not adding anything above that roof line.
Exactly.
All right, thank you very much. That is very, very
Sure.
important. One more question. When it comes to landscaping, I know we're all very worried about, the environment and, all of the things that we put out there. I just want to request that when you do the final plan, that you really look at the kind of plants that you're putting in, that they're desert plants, that they're going to help with the, how hot we make everything with the asphalt and all these kinds of things, that we really, really take a look at that. And I would really like you to, hopefully commit to us that will be something you consider when you're looking at the plants, not just pick the most common and easiest plants to plant.
Okay, we'll discuss that with the landscape architect when he works on his final plans.
That'll be perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
those are all the questions I had. Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions?
Yeah, I just really quick on the use. So, you mentioned it was like light manufacturing. So can you kind of give me a little bit of like background what this business will be doing?
Typically in a light manufacturing business, a lot of it is assembly. They will be bringing in pieces and parts and putting them together, or let me come up with some kind of assembly. Or we're not doing heavy. We don't create steel or smelting or anything like that. It's mostly assembly, final assembly of products is what I would imagine.
Okay, I guess my question is what kind of product?
Either plumbing we find a lot of our industrial uses are home based. We have plumbers, electricians, cabinet makers, granite flooring, tile, air conditioning guys, mostly stuff for around the house.
Okay. Another question I had, you said it would be solar ready.
Yes.
What is that? What does that mean?
I believe there are an area set aside on the roof. And correct me if I'm wrong, there's an area set aside on the roof. The roof is strengthened enough to handle the weight of the solar. And I believe there's actually circuitry that has to be put in place, ready for the solar.
Okay. I guess that's the only questions I have for now.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Great.
Being that the public comment portion is still open, Vanessa, do we have any public comments via email or online, or any public comments in chambers?
No public comments in chambers. A written comment was received for item 4.1, and that comment was distributed to the commission and posted on the portal.
Correct, thank you. Okay, then we'll go ahead and close public comment section and go to commissioner deliberation or any statements from the commissioners?
Chair, if I may, just confirming that we're closing the public hearing. Thanks.
Yes, closing public hearing now. Commissioners, any comments, or would anyone like to make a motion?
I don't have any comments. I just want to say that I think the use and the design fits well in that part of our city. And I think it'll blend in nicely. And I think the use is something that is beneficial to the city. So if there are no other comments, I'm willing to make a motion if they could put it back up on the screen. Since Okay, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024 approving design review 2202-495 for the architecture, site plan, parking, circulation, and preliminary landscapes for the Boulders West LLC project for a 65,000 square foot warehouse located on the southwest corner of Avenue 45 and Gulf Center Parkway, and determining the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to guidelines section 15332. And that we add all of the conditions that were listed by staff to the resolution.
I'll go ahead and second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Franz,
Yes.
Chairperson Isiano,
Yes.
motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. Moving on to action items 5.1 fiscal year 2022-23 capital improvement program of Indio Water Authority. Finding of general plan consistency. Can we go ahead and take our staff report?
Thank you for that. My name is Raimundo Trejo. I am the General Manager of Indio Water Authority. And today we come to you for consideration of a resolution to adopt our upcoming fiscal year capital improvement project. As part of the process, we want to make sure that these projects are consistent with the current general plan that the city has through 2040. So today I'll present those projects and share with you how they are consistent with the general plan. And this is the overview of our system. And for this coming year, our focus is really reliability. How can we best use our ratepayers' dollars to ensure that we have a reliable system? So the focus is aging infrastructure and infrastructure that's going to benefit growth. So on this map, you'll see that the focus is distributed throughout the centralized part of our system because most of our production facilities and storage occurs in the central part of our system. Plant 2, as you can see from the exhibits in the center, we have a plant 4 on the western side of the system. And if many of you drove through Miles, you'll see that we've just made a recent investment in putting a pipe in Miles. And that's really, again, to reinforce the western side of our system. So the projects are well diversified and they're distributed throughout our service area. The first of those projects is what we refer to as well rehabilitation. We have 20 wells in our system. And since 5 years ago, drilling a new well would cost about $3 million. And today we're seeing that those numbers have spiked up to an excess of $5 million. Part of our effort is to rehabilitate existing infrastructure to extend the useful life of those wells. So rather than drilling new wells, we want to expand the life of these wells by replacing components, doing a condition assessment. And what we found is these projects are beneficial by extending the life more than a decade, in some cases, even 15 or 20 years. This is part of our program. This project confirms to section IE 11 of the water supply and 1.2 of the water facilities of the general plan. The next project is our pipeline replacement program. And the way we determine where we replace the pipe is through a hydraulic model that we have in our system, together with real life experience from our operators. And thirdly, with the age of the infrastructure. For this coming year, we have approximately 1,000 linear feet of pipe that is focused in the downtown area where we have a lot of asbestos cement pipe, smaller size pipe. And as the city continues to reinvest in its downtown area, we found that there's a segment that we'd like to replace to ensure not only the fire protection that the city requires, to make sure that we have a focus in that downtown area to support not only existing development, but any future development for the coming years. Again, this project is consistent with 1.1 and 1.2 water supply and water facilities of the city's general plan. The next project is a water supply project that we've been studying for a number of years. As you've all heard the news with the drought and the declaration for the governor, we want to continue to explore options to continue our water supply. This particular project is a long-term project, and it is a collaboration through EVRA, which is the East Valley Reclamation Authority, made up of the Indio Water Authority and the Valley Sanitary District. And the focus of the short-term plan here is to continue to study benefits of this plan. Again, it's a long-term, possibly 8 to 10 years before we fully implement the project, but we want to continue these studies. And again, it confirms to the water supply and water facilities policies of the city's general plan. Moving on to project number 4. This is one of our oldest infrastructure facilities built in the early 70s. It's a Plant 2 booster pump station. And the focus here is to continue to upgrade and replace this plant. This next segment of the project involves design, and therefore it's here as a project for your consideration. Again, confirms to the water supply and water facilities policies of the city's general plan. Replacing this project would help us greatly in the central part of the system. Now, project 5 onward are continuing projects that we presented to you in past years where we're a little more advanced in the design process. Particularly Westward Ho Storm Channel Crossing Pipeline was a pipeline that back in February 2019, I believe it was Valentine's Day, it was exposed because of tremendous storm that we had. And again, it's a very vulnerable project. We'd like to make sure that we replace that. We have began to design, and again, it's a continuation of a project. This project would increase a 10-inch line to an 18-inch line and would be buried much deeper than the existing project, and it would ensure continuity to the western side of our system. Again, it confirms to the water supply and water facilities policies of the city's general plan. Project number 6 is actually a developer impact fee funded project, which requires that we drill a new well. This well would allow us to provide water to the northern part of the system where we're really seeing a tremendous amount of growth. We're looking at about 2,000 gallons per minute, possibly more. Again, this project confirms to the water supply and water facilities policies of the city's general plan. And lastly, we have the hydrant replacement program, whereas we are replacing hydrants that are substandard. And the reason we're replacing them is to ensure not only fire protection, to make sure that we have ways of flushing our system, especially during the hot seasons, and ensure good water quality. So twofold, fire protection and water quality benefits from replacing this project. It also confirms to the water supply and water facilities policies of the city's general plan. And today we're here in front of you to have you consider and adopt the resolution that includes these projects in that resolution. Be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Franz or Lopez, any questions for staff? No questions. Well, I'd just like to thank you for sharing those projects with us. It's exciting to see that we have a plan for, looks like we're taking proactive measures, to keep up with our city's growth, and appreciate you for sharing that.
Thank you.
That being said, what is the action that we need to take in regards to this?
Okay.
Is there a recommendation?
Chair, I might suggest seeing if there's any public comment submitted, either folks asking online. I don't see anyone in chambers, but confirming that, and then the commission could take action by making a motion on the resolution as staff recommended.
Okay. If there are any public comments online, Vanessa?
There are none.
Okay, being that there are no public comments online or in person, can we see the recommendation?
I don't have it on the slide. Do they have it on staff report copies? Yeah, my apologies. I didn't include it in the slide as I thought the staff report was distributed to all members.
It appears to be if a helpful reference on page 47 of 54 of the staff report. Perhaps we could pull that link up and display it.
Okay, and also at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing before we move on.
Just for clarification, this wasn't a public hearing item, but we just had to take public comment on all items on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I'm good to make a motion unless, Jackie, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I can see the,
I have it if you don't have it. So, oh, they got it. There you go.
okay, got it here. So make a recommendation to adopt resolution number 2022, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Indio, California, finding that the proposed fiscal year of 2022-23 capital improvement program of the Indio Water Authority is consistent with the City of Indio General Plan 2040.
I'll second.
Okay, can we please take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Franz,
Yes.
Chairperson Isiano,
Yes.
motion carries 3-0.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you to India Water Authority for our water supply.
Thank you, Mr. Trejo. Okay, moving on to item 6.1, study session item, discussion of administrative and entitlement review options for Article 6 of the Draft Unified Development Code.
Good afternoon, members of the Planning Commission. Kevin Snyder, Director of Community Development. So this evening, in response to a request from the Commission to discuss in advance of your May 25th discussion and review of the draft Article 6, which is the process and procedures element of the new Unified Development Code we're working on, the Commission had asked for the opportunity to have what I term kind of a philosophical discussion on administrative versus Planning Commission review. And maybe to kind of preface the discussion, just to give you some perspectives. So when the draft Article 6 comes before you, you will find in that proposals for administrative or staff level review actions versus Planning Commission review actions. And the reason why we're doing that is for a number of reasons, and I'll just kind of list them and explain them. First of all is the issue of timeliness and cost. So we want to be sensitive to the fact that there are certain sizes and scales of projects that do not necessarily have the capacity as other projects and the proponents behind those projects to expend the resources to go through a full public hearing process. So we want to be mindful of that. Another issue is the issue of what I term equity. Is it reasonable or fair that a 5,000 square foot office building is treated the same procedurally as a 50,000 square foot office building? You would think, I think reasonably, that there are different levels of impact. The other area is also the area of impact on staff resources. So right now, under our current procedures, for example, every application, no matter what type it is, has to go through a public hearing design review. That is a very heavy load of work for staff, and the preparation, the notification procedures. And so the impact on staff resources is significant. Again, using that example of a 5,000 square foot office building versus a 50,000 square foot office building, there would be at least theoretically less work involved for staff in bringing those forward. The final point, and this is maybe the philosophical point that I want to make, is as you think about this and as you review Article 6 on May 25th, and as you go forward into making your recommendations to City Council, I encourage the Commission to think about trusting the process, and I mean the process that you've helped put in place with the development standards, the use allowances, rather than the individuals involved, such as myself, Alyssa, or anyone else. Because if the processes that you have recommended to council, and if they accept your recommendations are good and they're reasonable and they're straightforward, then it honestly shouldn't matter who sits in my chair, Alyssa's chair, or any staff person's chair, because they should be sound and you should have confidence that those standards are going to be met. But understanding that there may be instances where you may feel, or a future commission may feel, that staff has not done what you think was appropriate, we are recommending provisions, what we call call-up provisions, where if a commission felt that a staff decision had been wrong, for lack of a better word, there would be an opportunity with the consensus of the majority of the commission members, we're proposing this language that you'll see on May 25th, could ask for a call-up of the staff administrative decision. So we recognize that you may not always agree with us. And if there's a consensus of commissioners, of a majority of commissioners, that you feel that you want to review that staff decision as the language is proposed, there will be an opportunity to call up, if you will. So really tonight is really an opportunity for a free-flowing discussion between yourselves and staff on the issues, concerns, opportunities, challenges of different levels of review. Again, administrative or staff versus planning commission review, which would typically be more of a public hearing review. And with that, I'll stop and turn it back to the chair for an opportunity to have that free-flowing discussion.
Thank you, Kevin. Gloria, I know that you had some thoughts on this initially, and that was hence part of the reason why we're having this discussion. What are your thoughts now?
You know, honestly, the call-up provision is a good step. I'd really like to see the language and how much of at what point are we, how early on in this process are we going to be able to have those call-up provisions? Because right now we don't get a lot of time, right? We get the packet on Friday and we have our meeting on Wednesday. So if a developer has come in and done all of this work, believing that basically the odds are very high that it's going to be approved, and we don't get an option to call something up until 5 days before the hearing, I think that's going to be a problem. So one of the things I'm going to be really interested in on that language is, at what point are we going to get a heads up that this is happening and that it doesn't happen at the very tail end? So that's one. I have, made some calls to other cities, and I don't know of any city that's giving up its architectural review capacity. I understand the concept of, how big a building is, how high it can be, what the setbacks are, what this is, what that is. And that's all very set and very clear in our new zoning packet that we're working on now. But the design review is really something that, depending on where the city is, what year we are, what the council makeup is, what we're looking for in our city and what's around it, where we can sometimes make a big positive, I think, change to not have just minimums. Sometimes if we create this easy process, people, I understand it's a business, they're trying to make money, right? So they're going to try and do what the minimum is on the requirements. That's what I worry about, because when we bring in these large buildings or these large projects, whether it's homes or apartments or condos or commercial properties, we're stuck with them for 30, 40, 50. There's some buildings around here a lot older than that, right? And we only have one opportunity to ensure that what is being built and we're going to drive by and look at for years and years and probably a couple of generations is something we can be proud of. And that really worries me. So I want to make sure that whatever we're going to allow to be staff reviewed, that we know exactly what that's going to be, what has to come to us, and what we're going to have that call provision on, and what that process is going to be. Because I'm saying, I understand Kevin saying that, if the process is tight enough, it doesn't matter who's in the chairs, right? Who the staff is, who the director is, who the planning commissioners are. But I think when it comes to design review, I do think it matters. And, who's in those chairs and who's in those positions. So you know, I'm very, I want to be very careful what we're giving, basically away, that we're not going to get to see, that we're not going to get to have a say. So those are my concerns.
Thank you, Gloria. Kind of now thinking back over the last, 3 or 4 years, I can think of a few projects that possibly staff could have recommended adopting certain things, and we've kicked things back or brought up some conditions, that I think either greatly improved the project that was approved, or we did not approve for various reasons. So thinking back, I do think that that's an important part of being, on this commission, and things do change, depending on what commissioners are in, or the makeup of our council, what's important, even though we try and follow, general plans and designated zone plans, things, like you said, the bare minimum sometimes is not enough for certain areas, whether it's allowable or not.
If I may, Chair?
Please.
I agree. I understand there are some other cities like the city of Palm Springs and Palm Desert that have their own architectural review committee or commission, whereas where we can, I think it's, again, to have a better place in our hands so that we can kind of overlook, rather than in other cities, there's like different layers that before it comes to planning. And we have that opportunity to work with staff and to work with the applicant, versus having, I'm not saying staff is, but most cities do have their own commission for architectural review. So I think we're probably one of the few cities that get to do that. And we'd hate to lose that.
And a question, because we don't have another committee, I mean, that probably does speed it up, right? Otherwise, you'd have to go to the architectural committee first, and you have to go to planning commission. But other cities do have both. And so
that is correct, Commissioner. And in fact, I would say yes, it's more expeditious, because I've seen instances where the two bodies don't disagree and you get into this back and forth and the applicant's caught in the middle. So definitely having a combined review effort, if you will, with the Planning Commission acting as that architectural review body, if you will. I think that is definitely it to the advantage of the process versus what Commissioner Lopez described that other cities have adopted. And every city has their reasons for doing that, right? I mean, some have found validity in having those separate boards and commissions, but others have not. If I could respond to a couple of the statements, I think one, we will definitely go through the call-up procedures with you, and you can just direct us and guide us as to whether you think that's adequate. We'll also have a reporting procedure that we would implement so that the commission is made aware. If we do have administrative oriented applications, you would be made aware of them early. And there would be the opportunity to, potentially look at that call up. I premise this all in the saying that you're going to make a recommendation to City Council, and they're ultimately going to decide on the Unified Development Code. So when I say potentially, it's just these are potential actions. You talked about the chair talked about the last 3 or 4 years, and I absolutely agree with what the chair said. One of the, I think, the distinguishments between the last 3 to 4 years and what might come in the future is you didn't have a heck of a lot to work with. You didn't have a very clear criteria to go off of for design review, and you didn't have a lot of standards to work off of. So you will have to decide as a commission if you feel that the Unified Development Code, and we're really talking more. I think we're really talking more in the vein of non-residential or industrial commercial. I think with the with the objective design standards, I say that in the sense that you won't see a lot of administrative elements around residential because of the fact that we typically the tentative maps are still going to be coming to Planning Commission. You're still going to have the very detailed objective design standards. So when I'm talking about this, I'm more talking about the non-residential. I just want to clarify that for the benefit of the commission. I'm when I use the 5,000 versus 50,000 square foot, the administrative design review would typically be applied in a non-residential land use situation. and I think Commissioner Florence has a question, so I'll stop.
So my comment to that is, if we think about the last few years, we've had quite a few storage spaces, right? Whether it's storage units or RV storage or whatever, and those would come across, at least I think the way you're discussing it, those would have gone probably just through administrative review and not come to us. And I fully believe that every one of those projects we have helped improve, even if it's just a little bit, you know, either the landscape or how it's laid out or some kind of thing. Otherwise, I think some we were just looking at long block walls that were going to be great graffiti walls, right? If nothing else. So even projects like that, I mean, I want to have a very clear understanding of what will and what would not come to us. And maybe you're right that in 2 years or 3 years, once we've had these new rules in place, that we see them working, that we might feel more confident giving more administrative authority. But to give it away at the very beginning when we have a whole new process in place that, you know, as well-intentioned as everything is, right? Nothing ever turns out exactly how we think it's going to turn out. So, I mean, maybe in a couple of years, we might revisit giving more administrative authority. But to start, I mean, I honestly think I want to limit that, and I want to have a very clear understanding of what it is that we will not see.
Yeah, and Commissioner, if I could, I don't think we're actually in disagreement. It would be limited. You gave the self-storage example. I don't believe that would be administrative. I think that would come to the commission. But you've, in the last couple of years, I think you've had 2 5,000 square foot buildings come before you. And the question is if we have very robust development standards that staff applies, that's the example I'm using. But a self-storage facility, however, of whatever size, you know, let's say it's a total of 40,000 square feet, I'm making a number up, that would still come before the commission. I'm thinking of the larger scale projects. I've been using administrative design review, but there's also we also have a variance situation where every slight variance that might be requested, a setback reduction of 1 foot, has to go to the planning commission in a public hearing format. So you'll see language about administrative variance, but that will also be limited so that there will be a clear distinction between what could be administratively considered at the staff level versus what could be and should be considered at the commission level. So you know, we're having this conversation without the benefit of you seeing these draft regulations. And actually, the consultant was like, "Should we wait and let them see the regulations?" But we wanted to go ahead and honor the request, at least have this philosophical conversation. And this is helpful so that when we do bring this to you on the 25th for your review and discussion, I think this will help in that review and discussion. But I see that the scope of any administrative or staff level review would be fairly narrow, and we certainly don't want to take you or the public out of the review process. But I think there may be certain situations where it may make sense. But again, that's my opinion, and you'll have to make your own decision and determination. If I get one other point I wanted to make, I said earlier in terms of impact on staff resources, and I do ask you to give serious consideration to that, because it is impactful every single time that we're taking that through. And, you know, that we're here to do that. But, you know, in other cities where I've had administrative versus planning commission reviews for certain types of project, it has been much less onerous on staff. And while that should not be the deciding factor for you, I do ask you to give that serious consideration, along with, you know, with the goals of the city to be pro-business and you know, offering efficient and timely review procedures. And then also that equity issue I mentioned earlier in terms of whether it's reasonable that a 5,000 versus a 50,000 should go through the same level of review. Those are thoughts for you to think about.
Kevin, can I ask you a question? So if we have really, I mean, this is what we're trying to build, right? Is very, very specific rules for people to know what they can and cannot build in our city and where they can build it and all that other stuff. If people are following that and they understand, I mean, I know that you meet with the developer multiple times probably before they ever get in front of us. A developer should have very little requested changes from us if they're following, you know, the guidelines, right? Because that's the point. That should speed it up. So hopefully the work that staff is doing, by the time it gets to us, I mean, our goal is not to say, oh my God, we don't want this, or we don't like this, or whatever. It's to make sure that there can't be small changes. I mean, we don't usually require very big changes from our developers, but we do ask for certain things, right? And I think it will actually make it so that, I think where it starts to get very expensive, and I understand this, is when we send it back for some major revisions, or the architect has to come back in or something, and we start going back and forth, and then that gets very, very expensive for the developer and for the staff and for the city. So, you know, that is never our goal, right? And hopefully because of these new regulations, that'll happen even less than it does now. At least, you know, that's part of this whole process, I hope. Am I correct?
I think that's a good way to look at it. And I do agree with you. I mean, I've been here 3.5 years, and I think in that time, I've only seen the commission once or twice send something back, if to use that term, for more effort or potential revisions. So I do think that the commission is very cognizant, and I do agree, Commissioner, that I think that, you know, the comprehensiveness of the regulations that you reviewed to this point is intended to demystify. I mean, our current zoning regulations are oftentimes confused, and we spend a lot of energy at staff level just trying to explain them to the development community and to property owners and to business owners. So I think the clarity that comes with the detail, if you will, does help, certainly. And I think that may make it easier for the applicants, easier for the commission in terms of applying that. So it really comes down to, kind of like I said, this, I keep using this term philosophical, but it really comes down to that philosophical question. And for at least the three of you, because I know you were on the commission when we did the downtown specific plan, we had a similar conversation about administrative versus planning commission review. And so it's just a continuing question. I think from the staff perspective, there may be limited instances where we would recommend that the commission not be involved, but that's our recommendation, not that you have to accept it. The one other point I would make is I think that it may be that you may not want to give up your role in design review or architectural review, whatever term you want to use, but there may be other areas where you might want to consider that. So for example, I mentioned the variance process earlier. So a 1 foot deviation in a setback for whatever reason would have to come to you. Maybe it's reasonable that there's a certain level, 10% or whatever the number is, of a requested deviation of the standard that could be done at the staff level versus coming before the commission. And that's something for you to consider as well when we talk on the 25th. So the consultants and myself will lay this out in further detail for you. We'll break down, both for, we have the concept of an administrative design review. We have the concept of administrative use permit, which would be a variation of a conditional use where it could be considered at the staff level versus commission level. And then we'll have major and minor modifications. So these will all be laid out for you, and you'll see the scenarios where, and the differences between when it might be staff level or commission level. But I think your points are all well taken, and we're not trying to, at least in terms of these thoughts and ideas of administrative or staff level review, we're not trying to take the commission out of it. We're just trying to find that balance between the full process, the public hearing process, and all the attendant elements that come with that, and maybe limited opportunities for a more direct staff level review. And that is, again, something I think you guys will dive into on the 25th in further detail.
Kevin, will some of those details be available before the 25th so we can take some time to study some of the concessions that you're proposing, or will we just be discovering it there at that date?
No, in fact, I was just on the call with the consultants today, and our goal is to try to get them out to you as early as possible. So they're working to wrap things up, and hopefully we'll be able to get those out to you. I'm hoping earlier mid part of next week, so you'll have an opportunity to review, take your time to review ahead of time, and not just that time frame, the weekend, typically between the Friday when we distribute and the Wednesday when we meet. So we appreciate, and in fact, we talked about today that we knew that you would want the opportunity to spend some time. That kind of like what we did with Article 2 and 3, where we sent it out early so you could sit with it for a while. So we'll do the same.
Thank you. I think that would be quite helpful, even if it's just a tentative, initial draft of it. If you have more to add on the 25th, if we have something to kind of, try and wrap our heads around beforehand. Thank you.
Yes, I answered all the consultants' lingering questions today. So now they're just making the proverbial tweaks. And so I should hopefully have it by the end of the week, first part of next week.
Awesome. Any other staff comments or anything else to this presentation, or any commissioner comments?
One thing I would ask, when you receive the document and you go through it, if you have any questions that you would like us to be either prepared to discuss on the 25th, or you would like an answer to it ahead of time, that we would answer your question, then obviously share that answer with the rest of the commission. I would ask for you to please send those directly to me individually, obviously. But it certainly helps us prepare for the discussion on the 25th if we know what your questions are after you've spent some time with the document and you're more fully vested in what it says. I would just ask for that opportunity to be made aware of things you might want to either talk about, or if it's a simple question that can be answered before the meeting that we can share with yourself and with the rest of the commissioners, then would ask for that opportunity to have that.
Certainly. Okay. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing something brought before us before the 25th, and then seeing it in greater detail on May 25th. If there's no other commissioner comments, we'll close item 6.1.
Chair, I might suggest we just check and see if any public comments been submitted for item 6.1.
Okay, I didn't know we were taking public comment on that. Vanessa, do we have any public comments online or in chambers for this study session item?
There are none.
Okay. Being that there are none, we'll close this study session and adjourn to next planning meeting on May 25th, 2022.
Chair, I apologize. You do have item number 7, commissioner comments before adjournment. Looks like commissioners don't have any comments, but just wanted to make that note for the record.
Thank you. Any commissioner comments, Commissioner Franz or Lopez? Okay, thank you. Meeting adjourned until next planning meeting, May 25th, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you.